Hey everyone, and welcome to Almost Cancelled. I am Peter, that is Connor, and we are going to talk about Emergence. This is episode 1, it is the pilot, so we'll start spoiler free as we do with pilots and first episodes, and we'll give you a warning before we get into any spoilers. I don't imagine there'll be much, but because a lot of network pilots tend to just be kind of the premise in the first episode.
Basically, if you've seen the trailer, you've seen the majority of the first episode.
In fact, I seem to recall parts in the trailer that were in the first episode. That might just be because they deleted them, it might be because they've pushed them to episode 2, it might be a number of things.
I'll be honest, I don't remember specifics of the trailer well enough to know what you're talking about there.
But yeah, so what is Emergence? Emergence is from ABC, and it stars Alison Tolman as Joe, who's the local sheriff in a small town, and there's a plane crash nearby at the shore, and she finds this little girl who has amnesia, doesn't know her name, and kind of takes her in, just kind of like, okay, she's got nowhere to go tonight, so I'll take her in tonight, back to my place. And you know, her dad's played by what's his face, Clancy Brown, who is very good. In fact, reviews have previously said that this is, ABC trying to recapture Lost. I believe I said that when I saw the trailer, yeah. And Clancy Brown was actually in Lost, so I mean, we have at least one connection so far. Obviously, there's a mystery element to this where the girl does actually seem to have some sort of power, and there's shady people after her who maybe know where she came from.
A not government agency.
It's basically it's ABC trying to recapture Lost via the plot, kind of Stranger Things, without the rest of the kids.
Yeah, pretty much.
It's how I would describe the basic setup of it. Which doesn't necessarily mean it's bad. In fact, I'm about to ask the question since I've delivered the premise. Connor, how did you feel about the first episode of Emergence?
It is aggressively networky. I don't hate it. It's not terrible. But I definitely, it's been a while since I've loved a network show because so many of them feel like this. This doesn't feel unique in any way.
That is fair. Now, I agree, there's not really much creativity to it. I think what it has going for it in terms of this first episode versus maybe other network shows that, we're not even trying this year, because this one at least looked like it may have a hook, may have some interesting things about it, is honestly the main cast, the main family, are typically pretty likeable and seem like a decent bunch of actors. Alison Tolman's pretty good, kind of down to earth. Clancy Brown's likeable as an old man. The teenage daughter isn't annoying, which is a big plus in a network show. The ex-husband's what's your face from Scrubs.
Sure, yeah.
Which I'm not a Scrubs fan, but what's his name?
No, me either.
Donald Faison. How do you say his name? Okay. But he's the ex-husband who's sort of still in their life, and has to come and pick up his daughter and whatnot.
It's pretty recent by the sounds of it.
Yeah, 2 months I think was the time, at least since they've had this
2
custody.
months since the custody arrangement was made, so probably a little bit longer, but not considerably.
Well, I assume that's just when the divorce was finalised. Like, how long have they been separated? Who cares?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. The basic premise, and the little girl herself, who comes to be known as Piper, which is not her original name, but they have to name her something. So she ends up picking the name Piper. And again, she's not annoying. She's kind of likable enough. I think I would describe this main cast as fairly likable, which honestly for a network TV show, because I think it's very easy to forget that once upon a time, when most of what we had from TV was network TV, that was the vast majority of TV, and things did get good on network TV, is that ultimately you would start a lot of shows with a fairly mediocre overall quality level, but you'd stick around for the characters because you'd see some potential in the cast. And I think this cast has the potential. I don't necessarily think the show's writing has the potential to make the mystery engaging, but
yeah,
that still has more than what a lot of network pilots have going these days. I don't think for a second it'll get a second season. I think this will be cancelled by the end of season 1.
Oh, not a chance. I will be shocked if it gets more than one.
I mean, you never know, though. I mean, it could be the sort of thing that captures the zeitgeist and people start talking about it, but I don't think so. I don't think it will. I think it is too much a hodgepodge of other things, and in case of Stranger Things, a very recent, other show. So conceptually, it's too similar to other things, I think, to really capture anyone's imagination right now.
What was the last major network show that kind of really hit the zeitgeist like that?
This Is Us, I think, was probably it.
Probably, yeah. And that was fairly original as a, okay, it was this drama, don't get me wrong. It didn't have the twist like these things, like the genre shows do. But it had its own, storytelling format. That was
Yeah.
pretty unique to network TV, at least.
No, it was pretty unique. I mean, we just watched the pilot.
Even just
but...
its tone was pretty unique for network TV at the time.
Yeah, that's just kind of going through the motions with its tone, and there's several plot beats where it just feels like, okay, I've seen this plot beat in 100 other TV shows already. It's just a case of how do they handle it, and there's nothing really in the style to really differentiate it. The only thing we have going in this is the cast and just not annoying characters. Which, let's be honest, a big problem with network TV in the last 5-10 years has been very annoying characters and very kind of shallow characters at that. Not that these characters. I was going to say, not that these characters are super deep necessarily, but they don't have to be right away.
That'll piss me off, which is usually a good sign.
Yeah.
But, I mean, it's not that this show is bad. I don't want to say, it's a bad show or anything like that, even though we're not being incredibly positive. It's not bad.
No,
it's just fine.
It's fine, yeah. It's completely fine. Like I don't think you'll be angry you watched this, but at the same time, if you didn't watch it, you've not really missed anything of note. Like your life will keep going and the world will keep spinning. And you're good. It's it's got that little bit of sci-fi mystery to it, where the girl has powers. Like, where did she come from? Why does she not remember things? What does she have to do with the plane coming down? Because they assume she was on the plane, and I don't think it's a spoiler to say that very quickly. It's like, she wasn't on that plane. She has nothing to do with the plane. Well, at least.
Well, she wasn't on the plane.
Traditional manners. Yeah. Well, that's a question that's raised. Because she has some form of telekinesis.
It's worth noting that almost every time we see the powers in use, it's to do with electrical things like TVs.
Yeah,
cars.
no, there's definitely a bent to it. It's not just straight up telekinesis. But at the same time, it does also feel like there is like a movement element to it as well. It feels like she's. It feels like she's playing with electromagnetism.
Yeah. The only thing that really throws it off at all is the rain on the windscreen, which was in the trailer. You kind of go sideways instead of runs down the windscreen, and you go, well, but I mean, you could probably still explain that with some sort of electromagnetism. It could probably affect it. I'm not sure exactly.
Yeah, just your point. I was like waiting for the
but
point.
That's the only one that really kind of disproves the angle we were going at.
Oh sure, yeah. I mean, whatever. Like, I don't really like. It's one of these things though, where I've seen enough of these types of things where I'm not that fussed about what her powers actually are. Like, they're fine. Like, I don't have a problem with them, but it's not something where I'm like, I'm deep into the mystery of like, why does she have these powers? Okay, so
it's more just I'm like, all right, so she probably brought down the plane somehow.
Nah, I think that's a red herring.
Yeah.
I think because it gets brought up in the episode, I think the whole point is she's going to have the guilt thinking she might have hurt a bunch of people, and eventually it's going to be no, you didn't actually have anything to do it. It was the bad guys that did that because they were looking for you or because
could have been
something else. Not that she would be irredeemable, because clearly it wouldn't have been an intentional thing she'd done if she was the one who brought the plane down. Yeah. We do see her use her powers to defend herself once or twice and things like that. Yeah, I mean it's okay. It's okay. Decent cast, fairly likable, or at the very least not infuriating characters, but there's really nothing new on the table that's making it feel interesting or exciting, and there's no stylistic touch that's given a unique tone or anything like that. It feels like a very typical mystery in a small town show, which I could get into potentially if the story and the writing was good, but it's just kind of
I think
so
the most interesting stylistic thing was probably the very end, the last scene with Piper. Felt like it had a little bit more going on than most of the episode, but it wasn't enough to go, oh, this is really great stuff.
Yeah, it wasn't enough of a hook. So we'll give the spoiler warning so we can just talk about it a bit freer. I don't have much I want to say about the plot necessarily, because there's a lot of scenes that were even though you feel like spoilers because they were in the long trailer, but just spoilers for spoilers' sake. So there's the two people who show up at the police station and say that they're parents and they want to meet her, and they've got our passport there and they've got some ID, but of course it all kind of falls apart because Joe's like, hey, can I see your phone and just see all your photos of your kid, because I've got tons of photos in my phone.
She's really not subtle about it though, is she?
No. And immediately their demeanor changes and she's like, hey deputy, get some prints off these coffee mugs. I want to know who these people are. And there's shady people trying to find her. At one point she gets kidnapped, later in the episode. And it's probably the most impressive thing we see from her power, where she makes the car crash. And this is where I say that it's not just electrical, because
Yeah,
the car looks like it hits something, but there's nothing there. It looks like it hits like almost like an invisible wall and flips.
it does. Yeah,
Which makes me think that there is an electrical component to it, but it's more like she just completely
the
messes with all the properties and just makes it kind of implode or
yeah
something like
the
that.
electromagnetism was kind of going in the right angle, I
I
suppose.
think that's maybe like a byproduct of the core thing, or it's the main thing, but there's, I don't know, like
Yeah,
it's
I'm
probably
with
gonna
it.
have a really specific thing that it's doing when they kind of reveal all this stuff. Um, so and they make there's this nice little touches. They make us care about the Clancy Brown's character a little bit. We find out he's a firefighter and he's got cancer now and he's taking all this medication. And the girl's doing the thing where she kind of says, "Oh, those medication, that medication's not helping you or anything." Because he's just trying to explain it to her. And he's like, "Oh, this makes me better," and she's like, "No, it's not." So does she have healing properties or at least sensing properties that she through the electromagnetism can she sense like other people's like vitals and things like that and know what's happening
Yeah,
with them or
maybe.
but it does enough just to give you like a little bit of his character and the fact that he insists on not going out before his daughter even though he's the old man who's sick he pushes
Yeah,
her out the window first at the end when they're in trouble or things like that and she makes the ultimate choice to not report the girl, to not report Piper, which is illegal, but she's doing that under the suspicion that there's some shady people after her that clearly
who
have
obviously have some connections.
they have resources at the very least to find her through the conventional means.
Yeah, because they came in as some agency, pretending to be some agency.
Yeah.
But they knew enough to pretend to be that that no one would question it. So they obviously know what they're doing.
Yeah, and then the real agency showed up like 20 minutes later and was like, "Yeah, we're here."
Yeah,
And there's an English reporter who's like investigating the story as well, who Joe reluctantly goes and sort of trusts at the end and tries to ask for help investigating what's going on.
that scene where she first met him
Mm,
might be the single most networky scene
sure.
of the episode, where it's just this chance encounter that's like, hey, this is setting up your sidekick.
Yeah, yeah. That doesn't necessarily bother me so much though.
I feel like it's just really bluntly done, and I think it's probably one of the worst elements in this episode for me was that scene because it felt just so network pilot, even by everything else's standards in this.
Yeah.
That one's just
Well, like
aggressive.
we always say this about network pilots, but it really should have been a double. Like it rushes through the whole setup like far too quickly,
Yeah,
and it definitely does suffer from. Okay, we kind of know that this episode's going to end with her deciding to keep her a secret and stay at the house because obviously at first it's like, oh, she's only here for a day or two. She's only here for a day or two.
yeah, like that's gonna happen.
Yeah, end of the episode. Now she's staying here secretly as your little sister now.
Yes.
So I mean, it's almost a bold choice to not have the teenage daughter be like I don't know, annoying. Like an actual character trait where like she's actually very pleasant and is quite nice to the little girl and like seems to
It's
like
like,
having her
oh,
around.
I'm never gonna get a little sister now anyway, so I might as well make the most of it.
I did kind of like the one little line from her where she's arguing to stay at home at her mother's this weekend. She's supposed to be going to her dad's. And she says, "Oh no, Piper needs some consistency. That's really important," which I learned from my therapist. So I thought you'd both really appreciate that. And she's basically throwing the fact that she had to go to therapy because they broke up in their face. Like it's not like a super smart line, but I kind of liked the way she played it. Like it was a nice little like, "Hey, I learned that at therapy about taking care of kids. Maybe you two could learn a thing here."
Yeah.
Like I don't know, it was kind of like a little underhanded bitchy comment, but in a very nice, like a pleasant way. But it didn't seem like she was coming off as
It was
yeah.
annoyingly polite.
Yes.
Is a way of delivering it.
So
But,
so that was likable enough, and the show looks like a network show. I feel like so many of these shows are set in the same kind of small town,
yeah.
which I
Yeah,
don't
they
mind as a
really are.
setting. Small towns are good settings for TV shows. They are.
No, they're good settings when the small town has some sort of character. This just feels like generic small town 23. Like there's nothing unique about it. There's nothing that feels interesting. It doesn't, it doesn't feel like like a character in its own right. It's just we just wanted it in a small town.
So what you're saying is that they need to have the one sort of meet-up place that everyone goes to that a lot of these TV shows have.
No, not necessarily.
That's what gives it the
they can have-
identity. Like the Double R in Twin Peaks, or
Yeah.
Maybe the bronze in the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
I was regretting that as soon as I started. Twin Peaks is a great example, though, of okay, no, this feels like a small town. People all seem to know each other,
Sure.
but it feels unique. Whereas this just, I
Hold
feel
on a
like
sec. Hold on a sec.
okay,
I don't think it feels fair to me to compare like your town feeling like a character to Twin Peaks.
okay, fine. Buffy was a annoyingly fine example
Yeah.
of what you said, but but the point is, okay, this feels like a place that exists rather than just a handful of locations that we're shooting this TV show in.
To be fair, like that's the sort of thing they don't necessarily have to nail in the first episode, though. That is exactly the sort of thing that can be built over a season.
It can.
You know, more familiars, faces around the town, more locations that we get used to seeing. Like that's the sort of thing that you can have, in a season, maybe even 2 or 3 seasons. That you can build that up over a long time if you want to, and that can work. I mean, did Buffy have a great town? Was Sunnydale like a really notable place after episode 1?
I would say no, but I think the school probably had enough of that feeling.
Okay.
Not it started in a smaller and it expanded out, but I had okay, this is a location that felt real. I don't feel that about any location here. I mean, there's a house, their home, but that's not enough to feel like a big enough location to be something like that I'm talking about.
So by comparison, Lost had the beach.
Sure.
And everyone was there, and it felt like a little community.
Yeah.
Okay.
This doesn't have anything like that. That I think even in some, I mean, Buffy's not the best pilot, but even some average pilots can get that feeling across. And I don't think this does.
We should probably talk about the final scene, where Piper is in the bathroom. She's finally got her hair tied back and kind of because she's looked the exact same since they picked her up. She's finally like showered and like has clothes on, has new clothes on and stuff, and she like gets a box cutter which she stole earlier on, and obviously that was like what's she doing with that? And then at the end, she cuts into the back of her neck and pulls out a little device. It's like a little glowy orb with like tech inside it. Could be a tracking device. It could be something relating to her powers. Although I feel like for the sake of the show, she'll probably still have her powers next episode. But
yeah, tracking was the first thing that sprang to mind.
It felt a bit fancy for just a tracking device, though, to me.
It did. It had that symbol in it, and like the circuitry kind of made the symbol, and it kind of did that like a current going over it, but it had this effect.
But that could just be a way of saying, oh, whoever's done this has really fancy tracking devices. All the technology is really fancy. Which is fine. Maybe like, she's remembered, because she's had amnesia, but she's remembered enough to know that there's something in her neck and pull it out.
Or did she just sense it in the same way that she could sense about the cancer?
Or if it's electrical, then she could probably sense it, just like she maybe possibly can other electrical devices. I mean, we don't know if she can sense them. I'm just kind of taking a leap there based on her making TVs flicker and lights flicker and
the stuff like that. But I mean,
although magnetism does seem to be a part of it though, because there was like paper clips and stuff moving and sticking to things and
yeah, that's true.
All sorts. So no, I mean that's the first episode of Emergence. No, we're not going to cover any more of it. We jumped out the pilot, see how it was. Not enough to keep us around, but not the worst thing ever either. It's always sad part is like we did look to see if there was anything that looked like really bad that would be funny to review the first episode of, and most of them are just kind of dull. There's no MacGyvers this year. There's no like Rush Hours or like any of those shows.
Yeah.
But we do what we can. But that is the first episode of Emergence. So let us know what you think of it.
So I will say just before we go is how we always talk and we joke about how Guggenheim.
Mm-hmm.
Guggenheim?
Yeah, Mark Guggenheim.
Is that who I'm thinking though? No, it's not.
Greg Berlanti.
Berlanti, yeah. It's one of them. It's that is involved in a lot of these shows, and it's their wife that created this. It just felt like okay, it's kind of part of the empire. It's one of them. I can't remember if it's Berlanti or Guggenheim. I know it was one of the creators of Arrow. It was one of those. And I kind of chuckled.
Okay. All right. Well, as we think of the first episode in the comments, like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on the Twitters at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the show and the channel and everything we do here, you can head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. We can support us for as little as $1 per month to get some bonuses, some extras, and all that jazz. Also, rate the audio version of the podcast on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to them. Gives a nice 5-star rating. Lets more people find us, that kind of thing. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching TV, guys. Have you got any vanilla?